debris and 180 metric tons of heavy metals. Rather contaminated. Where we are sitting, which is about here, was not as bad because these industries was controlled by the local government. This has changed completely. You just keep an eye on here. You're going to see, because this is then a picture 13 years, come on, later. There's quite a contrast from this to this. All the buildings are 5 to 8 floors high. It's like continuation of the inner city. 3 buildings a little bit higher, a block of flat, 30 floors high, 1 hotel and 1 office building. And why this low rise? Well, one of the reasons they did it was because they would like to have sunlight coming into the courtyards throughout the whole year. Now you hear, when we have the summer times, they're always never getting dark in the evenings and the nights. But remember, in December, we have every 6 hours of daylight and 18 hours of night. So even though at that time, it should come in some sunlight into a corner or whatever. Some pictures, a restaurant in one of the canals, a sport hall, a library. Actually, this building became too small for the library, so they had moved actually to a big location in that building. So now we have actually having a microbrewery for beer, actually there. And here's this block of flat, 13 floors high. And this is rather interesting building because you see that this part was built by one developer. This part was built by another developer. And they had to be very exact at the top because they were going to join them together. But they managed. Oh, by the way, this is my dog, Esky. One of the schools, here we have 3 schools for kids between 6 to 16 years old. And the 4th one is actually going to be built because we have so many children in this area. If you have some spare time, go fishing. And if you catch something, salmon or trout or something like that, pick it up, take it into the hotel, and they can prepare dinner for you, because you can eat it. Here, actually, they are sitting on the ice some couple of winters ago on the canal and trying to get some fish. Skate in the canal, and there is also a small ski slope. Now, what the city have tried to do with this old industrial area is a modern, sustainable city area. It was American scientists who started to look at how is the world population living, and found out that, well, in the year 2007, 50% of the world population were then living in the city area. Look at the progress, it is going to continue. 2050, 70% of the world population are then going to live in the city area. And also in 2050, we're going to be 2 billion more people on Earth. This means what? Well, we have to take care of more garbage in the cities. Of course, we are using the land and the water in the cities, but also around the cities much more. There's much more people moving around. And if you look at garbage as garbage, you have to put it somewhere. And of course, more traffic. So therefore it's very important that when you're building new city areas, that you think about these things matters and say, how can we make it as environmentally friendly as possible? Now, Business Sweden, the Swedish governmental organization, have made a concept over this called Symbio City. And what is this? Well, you saw some of these pictures before, and now we can see what is behind this when it comes to the infrastructure. The normal way is rather linear when you're building a new city area. You take bit by bit. How are we going to heat up the place? Well, we need it up here in the north anyway. What about garbage? We do it like this. What about water and sewage? We do it like this, etc., etc. Symbio cities, you see, can we get synergies out of all these different aspects of the infrastructure, and that is sit down with both the public and private stakeholders around the same table and decide how shall you make it as sustainable as possible before the detailed plan. Before you're making these, here are the roads, here are going to have the apartments, here is going to be shops, here is going to be whatever we don't have in the city area. The city of Stockholm started to look at this area in the early 1980s. And in the middle of the 90s, they also applied for the Summer Olympic 2004. So this was going to be the Olympic Village. And by the ski slope down here was going to be the Olympic Stadium. Did we get it? Nope, we didn't. It was Athens who got it. If that was right or wrong, that is a completely different discussion. Take it afterwards. Anyway, the only thing that remains from that application is this environmental program. And why did they do that for? Well, one of the reasons was because Sydney in Australia had the Summer Olympic 2000. And the one reason they got it was because they had made an environmental program. For instance, all their electricity came from solar cells. And therefore, Sweden and Stockholm said, we should make a bigger environmental program than wind. But we did. Anyway, the overall goal for this is to lower the total environmental impact by 50%. Or you can say that all these buildings are going to be twice as good when it comes to environmental matters and solutions than an ordinary built house at the beginning of the 1990s in the centre of Stockholm. That is the comparison we do. And here are some of these topics which they solved before the detailed plan. And I shall go through this later on. Well, by the way, I can send over this presentation as a PDF later on. I can send it over today to you, get an email, or if somebody have a member stick. Here is going to be roughly about 12,000 apartments, roughly about 28,000 to 30,000 people. And 10,000 people are going to work in the area. And this is also a strategy, not a new one, but they have emphasized it more now, that when they're building new city area, it should be a mixture of both people living and working. Started 97, finished around 2020. Traffic then. Well, here's going to live roughly about 22,000 people who had to move to work. Of course, there are working places here, but it's only 7% of the people who actually live here are also working in the area. So therefore, they had to start the public transport very early, so people had the choice. Should I use public transport or should I use my own car? So therefore they took in this light railway loop, which started 1.5 years after the first people moved in, which was in the summer 2002. They also started the carpool, used for private purposes only. You pay a monthly fee to be a member, then you pay for every hour and every kilometer you're driving in. That's it. The fuel is paid for, the insurance, the tax, the service, and so on. And these two companies, private ones, are having 40 cars parked in 11 different places only in this area. Because of all this planning, we found out that we did a survey for about 9 years ago. We found out actually, if you compare this area with other areas in Stockholm, we have decreased the use of cars by about 40%. And the only reason is that people have the choice. Should I use the public transport or should I use my own car? There are cars here in this area, 0.7 cars per flat, which is the equivalent amount as in the city, but they don't use it for work. The developers, here's 32 different developers. They're also, of course, involved in this environmental program. For instance, when you move into a flat in Sweden, old one or new one, everything in the kitchen is there, fridge, freezer, cupboard, and so on. And when you move out, you leave everything behind you. You don't take anything with you. So therefore, the developer has to install this. So it has to be also at least energy class A. You see, in EU, perhaps you have that also in your country, that the further down the scale you come, the more electricity and more water that machine is using. And here we said at least energy class A. Now we have better ones, but here we have said at least energy class A. Low flushing toilets, find as much as environmental friendly material, reusable material as much as possible. So therefore, there is an extra cost to build the buildings here than somewhere else in the city. But that extra cost is only 2 to 4% extra, not more. And of course, the developer will get that money back when they sell the flat or rent them out. Here, it's 1/3 of the flats here are flats which you can rent, and 2/3 are flats which you can buy. At the same time they made this environmental program, they also made this Hammarby model, the eco-cycle model, show that everything is connected. All these big infrastructure buildings, the heat and power plant, the water plant, the wastewater treatment plant, and Hammarby thermal power station, they were already built. This is just to show that everything that the people are throwing away through the waste or what comes with the wastewater are coming back in one way or another. And we start with energy, we start with district heating. You see, we have 4 major plants in the city of Stockholm which will produce hot water. It's just under 100 degrees Celsius, which is sent out into the city and then comes into the buildings to warm up the buildings and the apartments. And we're using actually, to get that water, that temperature, we're using garbage. Because in Sweden, we don't look at garbage as garbage. Garbage is a resource. If you look at the total amount of waste coming from the households only in Sweden, it's less than 1% of that is put in the landfill. Over 99% we either reuse or we're getting energy out of it. So you stand in the kitchen, taking out all the recyclables, glass, plastic, paper boxes, metal and so on. You have a leftover, and that we burn. And from that we get district heating, hot tap water and electricity. Another source to produce district heating is this. It's the heat from the purified wastewater. Because that is having a temperature between 8 up to 80 degrees Celsius. Through heat exchange, you take that heat out, and from that you produce some district heating. Now, that water is cold. So in the same process, you get district cooling. And district cooling is used only in public rooms, offices, shops and so on. So the supermarket just around the corner here, their refrigerated rooms is coming actually from the district cooling system. Back to the wastewater treatment plant, because this is a huge wastewater treatment plant in the area. It takes care of wastewater for about 800,000 people. And when you treat the wastewater, you take out this biosolid, the sludge, and from that they're producing biogas. Because the biogas production is so close, you have 1,000 flats which are biogas cookers in their kitchen. But most of this is used for fuel for buses and cars. That's the main purpose for it. Waste. Here we take care of the 3 largest fractions of waste. It's food waste, it is combustible waste, waste you can burn, and newspapers in a system called Station Vacuum System for Solid Waste. 3 intakes, 1 for each fraction. The green is for food waste, blue newspapers, and grey is combustible waste. And we have those in the courtyards. And underneath the ground, you have the container where you store these waste until it's going to be collected. Then all these containers are then in one pipe, connect to a house in the outskirts of the area, where you have 3 containers, 1 for each fraction. And also there you also have the fan, which sucks the garbage through the pipes in the speed of 70 kilometers per hour. The funny thing is, you see, that all the cars in this area, they have a speed limit of 30 kilometers, but not the garbage. There you are. Anyway, that starts, then you empty one of the container for the food waste. You go to the next food waste container, then you go around the whole area to collect the food waste. Shift container in the house, then you take the second fraction and the third fraction. And because you're taking 1 fraction at a time, so that's why you need only 1 pipe to the house. And it is to this house, the waste lorry is coming to collect the garbage instead of going into every building. You save space in the building, you can narrow down the side streets, etc. And also, you can also put in the public waste paper baskets in the streets. You can connect that also to this system. And that fraction is then going to the combustible waste to be incinerated. It's MLAC, the Swedish company, who's doing this in this area. And they have been doing this for the last 50 years. It's not new at all. They have been doing this for quite a number of years. And then water. In Stockholm, we are using about 200 liters per person a day. And I can assure you that all the water you have from the taps in the hotel, in the toilet, or wherever you are, you can drink it. You don't have to think about it. In Sweden, you don't have to think about that. You can drink all the water from the tap. You don't have to buy water. Anyway, we try to reduce everything by half. So here we're trying to get down to 100 liters per person a day. But only because of technical installations, low flushing toilets, energy class A dishwasher and washing machine. And then we put in an air filter in all the taps. which reduced the water flow with 50%, we have come down to 150 litres per person a day. I don't think we can come down to 100 litres per person a day, because we are so fortunate, and I think we Swedish people have to be more humble about this. We have no shortage of water. And also it's rather cheap. For $1, you get roughly about 1,000 litres from Stockholm Water Company. Therefore, I can't understand all these shelves with bottled water in the supermarket. We have it almost free from the tap. But then people say, I would like to have bubbles in it. Well, buy a soda stream, I think. But there are some stupid people, and I hope, God, it's not you, I hope. Here, I talk about Swedish people, so I don't talk about you. There are some stupid Swedish people who go and buy still water in the supermarket. And do you know what it is? It's tap water in a plastic bottle, nothing else. They say it's coming from this well, it's coming from that well, and so on, but it isn't. It's tap water in a plastic bottle. And if you compare that quality of water in the plastic bottle, can most of the times not be as good as the quality you get from the tap. Then we have the transportation of all the water around the world. I was Frankfurt Airport once, was doing some shopping, not water, and I went into shopping, and I went past by this shell with water, and then